It's hard to imagine two people more different than me and my dad. So whoever came up with the saying, like father, like son, never met the two of us.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Last Straw. Do you remember back at the end of 2023 when Bob Iger and the executives at Disney admitted that they went overboard with the content on Disney+? How they acknowledged that the push to supply the streaming platform with many new movies and shows on top of what they're already making for theaters and TV end up hindering the brand and its IPs like Marvel? It was nice that they recognized their own flaws. If only they actually did something about it, because how else could you explain them releasing a fourth Diary of a Wimpy Kid animated movie? Seriously, are they really that popular to the point that more need to be made? Okay, I'll say now that I don't entirely hate these movies, but it's honestly hard not to look at them and believe that their purpose is to be streaming filler and to give Disney a way to profit off of owning the franchise. I will admit, though, that the last movie back in 2023, Cabin Fever, was surprisingly okay. I wasn't amazed by it, and I still consider it subpar compared to Disney's other animated films from that year, like Elemental and Wish, but it did supply some of that feel-good Christmas spirit that gives the feature some charm that its predecessors didn't have, making it the best animated Wimpy Kid movie so far, even if that bar is so low that many can jump over it. But as you can tell, I'm not doing a vlog-style review with this like I did with some of the other previous Wimpy Kid films. This, as a result, comes with good news and bad news, where the good news is that I got enough time this holiday season to give The Last Straw a proper scripted review. The bad news, however, is that I have to review another Disney Plus Wimpy Kid movie, and I really wish I could just go and watch Zootopia 2 again instead. So now that Greg is using animation to prove that he's no longer a wimp, can the Heffley start a good streak after Cabin Fever? Or is this called The Last Straw because that's how I'll end up feeling about it? Let's find out. The story. In the fourth installment of the animated Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies, Greg Heffley's Wimpy Kid title is starting to become a bigger problem for him, especially now that the consequences he faces for his mishaps are getting worse, and his dad Frank is losing patience, where he's starting to consider the option of sending Greg to military school so that the boy can be set straight once and for all. But as a way to avoid that possible future, Greg decides to join the Wood Chipper Scouts and bring his father with him so that he could get those honorable badges and prove to his father that he could do something right.
What if I could become Wood Chipper Elite? Then would I have to go to Spag Union?
A Wood Chipper Elite? Wow, Greg. You know, that's no joke.
I'll give the movie that, at first, it felt like they were starting to up their game and improve their craft, where the opening scene with the family rushing their way to church does feature some fun gags with everything that can go wrong with the entire family's dysfunctional dynamic.
Relax, dear.
But if Greg doesn't come out soon, we're not getting a seat.
Wait, we might have to stand?
Unfortunately, that turned out to be a false first impression because the charm wears off not long afterwards. At its core, this is meant to be a father-son bonding movie, where the narrative is more character-driven to experience the two settling their differences so that they could form a connection. It's a nice template to make an emotionally engaging story, but the catch is to make the characters likable so that the viewer wants to see their bond work out. It's already bad enough that I've developed a distaste for characters like Greg from these past Disney Plus features, but even without the context of the predecessors and just watching this on its own merit, the plot doesn't really work when the two don't have much charm or provide anything interesting to justify why we should care about them and their circumstances.
Hey, Greg, I brought you boys some hot cocoa. Oh, no!
In a way, this movie is just over 70 minutes worth of two despicable people having a hard time to prove that they can be good, whether it be to the other characters in the movie or to the audience. Not to mention how the film feels like it tried to force out a happy ending by having Greg become completely out of character with a sudden burst of competence to save the day. I understand that this is still a kid's movie and it has to conclude on a positive note, but this doesn't feel like it merited that when it pulled its ultimate conclusion out of nowhere.
I'm sorry I didn't tell you the truth sooner, but we were starting to actually have fun together. And I didn't want anything to mess that up.
But while it failed to develop its heart, the storytelling doesn't help the situation either, where it has to be a Wimpy Kid movie. And as such, the plot is treated as a secondary element so that its priority is on Greg's series of mishaps. Are there times when these moments can work for the comedy? Maybe? I'll say, at best, the humor is hit and miss, where I'll give it that it can find some spots to execute some cute gags, but they also cause the storytelling to feel repetitive, where it primarily wants to show one screw-up from Greg after another, and how some can be linked where the consequences can carry over to the next situation.
Well, that's a pity. I was hoping to get some payback for your little smear campaign.
I went to detention for that. We're even.
Also, considering how Heffley himself is not a good character in this, it's hard to feel like you want to be on his side when most of the problems are caused by his own arrogance, laziness, and ego in order to get the best results by putting in the least amount of effort, even if it means to lie and cheat his way out of his situations.
Look, Rowley, if you want to actually win, you gotta be willing to get down in the mud.
I understand what kind of story it wants to tell, and create a heartwarming tale about a father and a son trying to settle their dysfunctional differences so that they could stay together as a family. But the big problem is that Diary of a Wimpy Kid is not well equipped for that. Maybe it can have a few funny moments, but with its repetitive storytelling and charmless characters, the concept is similar to Greg himself, where it keeps tripping on its own feet and barely even tries to accomplish its own task. There is a way to make the story work, it's just that you cannot do so with the Heffleys. The animation. Greg himself may not have impressed me and failed to show that he could be a good person worth caring for, but I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like the animation got a bit better since last time. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the visuals are great in this, but by the standards of these Wimpy Kid movies, I can't help but notice that it got a slight glow up and an improvement from its predecessors. I looked up to see if maybe Disney hired a different studio to make this one, but that's not even the case. It's still Bardell Entertainment who provided the animation, just like they did with the last 3 movies. Maybe it's because they got a new director with this, with Matt Danner, but whatever the case may be, I appreciate this new polish that the movie was given.
Maybe your accomplishments will inspire other people in the family to step up their game.
When it comes to how the animation got an upgrade, I'll say now that there are just minor elements, and this is from comparing to the other Wimpy Kid films. But for me, they could go a long way where it does help improve the experience. One example is with the use of the effects and how there is more of a prominent use of the elements like water, fire, or walking around in the snow. Sure, there could be a few moments where they can look a bit off because it can't afford to make them look better, but since this is a movie where Greg and Frank later find themselves in the woods, it gives the feature some opportunities to play around with its environment.
He's like a dog with a bone.
But if I have to say what I enjoyed the most from this movie, it's that it's more aware that it's an animated film and embraces that. It's already a nice touch that the movements have a subtle use of motion blur to strengthen its look as a computer animated film, but there are times when they get to be more playful with the characters to have their personalities leave a stronger impact to those scenes, like with Lenwood Heath and his super athletic style to help his community, and the gags to provide a greater execution to the comedy. Yes, I know I said that the humor is a mixed bag at best, but I find that most of the ones that work are those that are visual based and decided to be over the top with its situations like a cartoon.
Yeah. I went ahead of Rowley to make sure the route was safe for the kids.
Well, just make sure you keep those kids clear of that construction site.
Unfortunately, that's as far as where my praise goes for this. Again, the animation is only great when you compare this to the other Disney Plus Wimpy Kid films. On its own, however, its standard doesn't go higher than what you'd find in a typical computer animated series. And this is definitely not to say that they didn't have amazing animators working on this. I know they did the most they could. But much like the script, what really holds this back is the fact that this is a Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie, and it has to keep that look consistent to what it did before. This means that the designs still have to stay true to that 3D version of the illustrations from the book with that simple, almost minimalistic style with almost no textures onto them. And yes, those little 2D moments still show up to illustrate some backstory and provide context to certain characters, even if those animations are very limited to the point that using the style excuse is a bit of a stretch.
And a few years back, he used to toilet paper our house every Friday night.
Curse you, Lenwood Heath!
Take that, old man!
As for what's around the characters, the backgrounds are kept basic. It's all either a suburban town or a typical forest at Icy Pines. And these aren't the kind of places where they immerse the viewer into the film either. I do mean that they are basic, where even the way they were crafted are meant to just get the job done to be what those areas are. The most that was done to make the backgrounds fun is the church for some of the gags and the inclusion of some posters. I will give credit to the animators that they were able to make the most out of the materials they were given, and there are times when they were able to exceed the standard of what these films usually provide. The only catch is that those materials were not good in the first place. Without the context of the franchise, the animation can only reach up to be okay at best, where the source material doesn't give the team a lot to be fully creative with. The animation is the best thing you'll get from this movie, but don't expect to get the best animation. The characters. For those who still watch the Disney Plus Wimpy Kid movies, one thing that will be immediately noticeable is how the voices received a big update. Yes, I know that it's common, even with this franchise, to switch the child actors around to keep the characters young. But considering that Greg was starting to sound like he was hitting puberty in the last two films, it was a bit of a shock to hear that he's back to being a kid again with his new voice by Aaron D. Harris.
What's great about having an older brother is that they can teach you stuff, because they've already gone through all of it before you.
But if you ask me, my family spends too much time together as it is.
Annie.
Once I'm out of bed, I'm one of those people that likes to ease into their morning. And for me, that means spending a few minutes warming up over the heating vent.
But this is not a criticism to the feature at all. I'll even say that the voice acting is actually among the feature's better assets, where the performances did well with the materials given to them. Rather it be with the recurring actors who return to reprise their voices, like Chris Diamantopoulos as Frank and Erica Serra as Susan, or with the new ones who are able to stay true and consistent to what was previously done to their roles.
The wood chippers are trying to recruit new members.
Spending the weekend in a nylon tent with my father in the freezing cold is like my worst nightmare.
What sucks, however, is that there is no amount of good acting that could help salvage these characters. And like I said before, a big part of what makes this experience unpleasant is that there is almost no one likable among the cast. And the worst ones are the leads. Starting this off with Greg, the most positive that I could say about him is that I guess he was worse in the previous features like Roderick Rules, but that doesn't change that he's an arrogantly selfish jerk and still presents those cringy traits like taking advantage of his friend Rowley's loyalty, always wanting to go through life with little to no effort, and his own actions keep causing harm to everyone and everything around him.
Greg?
I don't see you sweating.
Whenever something bad happens or when he gets caught with a lie, I feel like it's his own fault for setting himself up for failure, and he deserves the accountability. Maybe there are a few instances where he tries to be good and wants to show that he can be helpful, like getting those wood chipper badges or make a connection with his dad, but it's in his nature to avoid making an effort, and his approach, whether it be with good intentions or not, has no charm whatsoever.
Being part of a team wasn't so bad. In fact, it kind of made me wonder what I've been missing out on all these years.
As for the other main character, Frank is Greg's dad who wants to be sure that he is actually a good kid. However, it's clear that he is Greg's father for all the bad reasons, because he can be as condescending as his son, where some of the kid's downfall is from his dad setting him up for it. I'll give him that he tries more than Greg to be good and shows that he'd like to be a better father, but he hasn't been much help for that and needs to work on improving himself as much as his son.
I'm out.
Oh, Greg. Okay, we're leaving.
As for the other Heffleys, they're mostly on the side without doing much in the story, like Susan is the supportive mother, Manny is the sadistic troll, and I was surprised to find that, similar to the animation, Roderick provides a lot of the film's funniest moments.
Come on, the service is about to start.
Here, you can wear my pants. I'll hang back in the car and take one for the team.
Nice try, Roderick.
There's also Rowley, who's there to occasionally help with Greg's schemes, but I feel proud of him because he's started to become aware of how his friend is a toxic problem that he's better off avoiding. I mean, it may seem cowardly when he runs away when Greg is in trouble, but considering what he's been through with all these movies, I don't blame him.
Oh yeah? Well, good luck doing this by yourself. I'm going shopping with my dad. Wait, Rowley!
There's also the Warrens, who often show up as the typical superior neighbors to show off how better they are than the Heffleys, even when they want to help them out. Lenwood, who opens the option of bringing Greg to military school. Troopmaster Barrett, who reveals how Frank has more in common with Greg. And some of Greg's peers like Patty, a teacher's pet with a short temper and a grudge, and Fergley, whom the movie decided to level up his weirdness with his obsession with nightmares.
Hello, Greg Heffley. Do you want to play with me and my snow friends?
If it weren't for the good voice acting, the cast would be completely unbearable. There are maybe a few who could provide some funny moments, but the more significant ones provide no charm, they're one-dimensional so their personalities come out flat, and whatever traits they have make them unappealing, annoying, and can become loathsome. What's the point of making a movie that focuses on the characters when the characters themselves are a lost cause? Well, if there's one silver lining from this experience, considering how the movie was given the title The Last Straw, hopefully that means that this will be the final film of these Disney Plus Wimpy Kid movies, and we can all move on to— What do you mean they're already making another? Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Last Straw, is another example of how this animated revival of the franchise is meant to be nothing more but Disney Plus filler. Maybe it's not the worst thing you'll find on the platform, and there are a few things that it did decently well, like some of the comedy, the animation, and the voice acting, but this is still an unpleasant experience with a dull story that gets repetitive, and characters who can make the film become a bit mean-spirited and irritating. I know this may seem a bit harsh to go this hard on a Disney Plus exclusive animated movie, but considering how the platform is able to release some great stuff like Predator Killer of Killers earlier in the year, there is no excuse for this not to do better than what it did with the previous films. By this point, I'd only recommend this movie to the die-hard Wimpy Kid fans. If you've been following the Disney Plus features and are still enjoying them, then you'll have a much better time with this than I did. Outside of that, you're better off checking out anything else that's on the platform. And if you enjoyed your time with this review, then give this a like and come subscribe to my channel. You can also join my Patreon where you can support my work and get some rewards that are worth writing about in your diary. In terms of these Wimpy Kid movies, I'll say that this one is better than Roderick Rules, but a downgrade from the first and Cabin Fever. And since that means it's among the weaker ones, that's enough to give this the Animat seal of garbage. Maybe Greg was better off in military school than to be in another animated movie.
This is like the lawnmower situation all over again.
That was like 100 years ago.
Yeah, well, some things never change.